get into it. What we want to get into is let's get into the internet, right? And let's get into, we're in these social audio spaces. Let's see. Oh, Carlos. It's the third time the charm, Carlos. Oh, man. Sure, I still can't get our brother Carlos up. I don't know what the.
Me either.
Yeah, I don't know. That sounds like a job for Cody. Not Superman. I don't think even Superman can help with this one. I think that's more of a job for Cody. Sorry, Carlos, man. I wish I could help you a little further, my brother, but I don't really know what else to do unless anybody can think of anything else he should try. I don't know.
I don't know if when there's 12 speakers on up here, if you can move anybody else up, and you have to move them up to speaker in order to put them up with y'all.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with it. I think it's just him having an app issue, and he can only keep trying to come in.
Hey, Shar, I'd also recommend he leave the room and try and come back after he re-downloads the app. That might be a help because we had this issue a couple times.
Yeah,
He was just in our room on stage. He was just in our room on stage, so something's tweaking out. But he's across seas. He's in the UK, so maybe that's playing a part.
Oh wow! All right. Well, like I say, keep trying it, Carlos. As someone mentioned, maybe you have to re-download the app. Maybe you need a newer version potentially. But
and he just said he's going to sit and listen in the chat. He just said that, Ron.
Oh, did he? Okay. All right. Well, that's cool too, Carlos, man. If you want to do that, that's definitely cool. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. The internet. I don't know if you want to refer to it as Al Gore's internet. Some people do, or however you want to refer to it. But I want to talk about internet safety. And of course, there's a ton going on around it. And as we build these platforms, particularly around social audio, how do we all work together to maintain these as being safe spaces, right? Oftentimes we're in rooms with Cody and we ask Cody, we kind of pepper him with questions and rightfully so, as we're excited about building this platform and we're getting closer and closer to that October 1st date, right? And so, just thinking about whether it's breakout specifically or just to a more mass conversation around just the internet in general. Now that we're to this kind of point with it, I'd love to engage some discussion and some thoughts around, how do we make these, safe spaces, right? And safe being, that people feel comfortable engaging in conversation and sharing their opinion and their thoughts and being able to learn and ask questions. And how do we do that in a space that, people feel safe? And then you add the other element to this, which is, I've seen Clubhouse do this now, where children now are on Clubhouse, and you're sharing stages now with people that are underage. And I don't know if that will ever happen with Breakout. Maybe it does, or maybe it doesn't, whatever. But, as you start having that dynamic come into play, where you got spaces where adults and children are sharing the same space on social audio and across the internet, what does that look like, right? And how do we best ensure, again, a space where we can continue to grow and build community while keeping it safe for all of us and everyone who decides to partake. So that's our topic today here on the Breakout Power Hour. And we open the floor. I'm not going to sit and manage a queue. I mean, I like to have these spaces where we're just kind of talking kind of around the table, or we're just kind of chilling out. So the floor is open for anybody who wants to get us kicked off.
I'm going to jump in really quick before it gets fire up in here.
Let's do it, Shar.
I think it starts with us, right? It starts with the creators of the room. You have to make sure your space is safe. I know it's not just, you may not be particularly just talking about this app, maybe talking about the internet altogether, but we have to start creating safer spaces. A lot of stuff get hectic. I'm not innocent. I've participated in some hectic spaces and dramatic spaces as well. But we have to start making spaces safer. Like, everybody has a voice, but do they really? I think sometimes we make things a lot more personal than they have to be. A lot of people have personal agendas in certain spaces, and that's not necessarily the case. Like, learning to become more selfless and making sure that everyone matters in the space. I don't even know what I just said, but thank y'all for listening to it. Open floor.
No, Shar, you said a lot. You touched on a lot of different pieces around what I wanted to get into today. And we can talk from, just the social audio piece, whether it's Breakout, Clubhouse, or just, from a more global perspective with the internet. But, I think you're right. And one of the things that I've heard, even as people have transitioned, say, from Clubhouse to here or to other platforms, is, they talk about how they put the onus on the platform itself. Right. So, if they find issues with Clubhouse, they blame Clubhouse. Right. Or they blame Paul, they blame Rohan, whoever they want to toss out. But here's the deal, just in my opinion. As you mentioned, it's about the people that curate and host rooms. Right. They have to be very intentional. We all have to be very intentional about the type of spaces that we host and what we allow to go on in a space. And I think, there's not an issue with Clubhouse or as the platform itself. Kind of what you alluded to, Shar, if I'm correct, is it's the people, right? The people who host different spaces. And you're right. People have different agendas. And one of the unfortunate pieces, at least in my opinion, of the internet is it's turned everybody's became a kind of a celebrity in their own mind. And sometimes they chase the clout of the attention of feeling like they're this entertainer now and that they're going to curate these spaces. And you see this on Clubhouse a lot where, people are engaging in just, back and forth, and they're just, there's nothing really productive going on. They're just, dropping each other's names and slandering and cursing each other out and all that type of thing. And there's some great spaces there. And, but that, sometimes can happen, those spaces where people feel like they're attacked or people feel like they don't have a voice. It's cliquish and, people are having all these conversations behind the scenes. And, of course, one of the great ills that came out of the pandemic outside of COVID-19 and monkeypox and all that is the green moderator badge. I think at some point someone's going to do a 60-minute special on the green moderator badge and how that fried people's brains.
As they should, because that thing is freaking poison. Okay, it's a hot mess run, but I think, like, to respond to what you're saying, that's where I think community comes into play. Like, we need somebody checking us. Like, I'm so glad that I have people, and I check in every now and then and be like, yo, am I being an arrogant little prick? And they'll say, you definitely are. Because at the end of the day, like what's this app for? Like right. What is this? You still have to be a person at the end of the day. And if you're being a jerk, then why are you even on here? I really want, and I encourage everybody to still stay true to yourself. Like, I hope that people, and myself included, don't become so arrogant and so prideful, so nasty towards people because you feel relevant on a platform. I see it so many times.
Shar, I was in a room once. One of the things that really kind of it made me, it was so ridiculous that it just made me laugh. I was on Clubhouse, and I won't say names, but I was in a room where there was a gentleman who frequents a lot of stages, and he spends a lot of time on the app, and that's another conversation. But anytime you go in the room, he's always there. And one time, for whatever reason, he wasn't given a moderator badge. And this guy unmutes and basically goes on a tirade.
We already know who you're talking about, Ron. I mean, that guy's everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So, yeah, for the sake of this audience, I'm not going to get into that. But I'm 41 years old, and I'm sitting here listening to a guy that's at least maybe 20 years my senior, I'm thinking. And he's crying and going on a tirade about how people don't like him because they didn't give him a moderator badge. And I'm thinking about this, and, trying to keep from cracking up. I was like, man, this is just this guy's just a colossal prick. But aside from all of that, how did that become such a big thing, right? Like, a moderator badge, like on a stage, like on the, on a social audio app. How does that become to where it strikes that much emotion that, like you have this whole tirade that goes on and people are trying to appease a guy that's supposed to be like a business leader, right? Like you're supposed to be a CEO. You manage all these people, you lead all these processes, you've made all this money, and you're crying over a moderator badge. Wow. So that's what, I really was just like, man, what's really going on here? And so I think about specific instances like that, y'all. And I think about just as we're building these communities and particularly as we're building BreakOut, right? As Cody and that whole team are working behind the scenes, man, I'm just, I'm curious as our thoughts as to, again, when, just the, just how the laws typically work. I mean, once you get millions of people on here, you're not going to be able to control everything. But I think one of the things we can do is kind of, Shar, you alluded to this, is kind of have a somewhat of a policing of, what's going on in these rooms, right? And be able to quickly act if, again, someone's being, a gargantuan prick about something, or someone's being attacked or slandered or, or whatever. That just shouldn't happen. We should all be able to have good, passionate conversation here. And even if we agree to disagree, that's fine. Right. But so anyway, floor is open. I'd love to hear some additional thoughts.
Yeah, Ron, there's a couple things that you brought up, and I think about the boundaries that we set for our kids, for example, for those of us who have kids in here. And, Cody is like the father of this app, and the boundaries and things that he accepts or does not accept and sets an expectation is going to determine who continues to thrive and be sustained on this app. I'd never give my 12-year-old the keys to the car unless I taught them to drive. And I don't think 16 is necessarily that age in which somebody is legally allowed to drive. Yes. However, at 15, you get a permit in Texas. So, a lot of the content, I would be scared to death if BreakOut opened this up to kids. And I'm scared to death that Clubhouse has done that. And the reason why is because they cannot police, or they choose not to. So there's one of two things here. And I think this is where the safety issue runs in. What is considered a safe room? Well, as all of us know, if my daughter or my son, or my other daughter decided to go into a room that maybe didn't have as much moderation and it wasn't content appropriate, how can we police that? Well, we can't even police the internet. And that's the danger of having an iPhone and a computer at your fingertips, where if you can't monitor your kid's phone, how are we supposed to monitor ourselves as an adult? Because we can very easily slip into those rooms and say, oh, this is not my cup of tea. And you stay a couple extra minutes and you're like, well, it's drama, so let's see what's going on. Let's kind of feel it out. And we don't really have that expectation to stay, but sometimes we do, because we're all attracted to drama and train wrecks. So let's just be clear. How long we choose to stay is going to be up to us. And also the mass, when you see a mass amount of people going towards something, you always at least want to poke your head over the crowd to see what's actually going on. So kids feel the same way. That's human nature. And I think the way that we're able to set up safety-wise is, it's vetting people, and I don't know if this is possible, but vetting people who open rooms and the content that they're providing, I think is really important. And then the second we start to hold them accountable for things that they say they're going to do and actually do, it's a really slippery slope, because that freedom of speech, what we want to create, starve the attention of the things that we don't want, continue to encourage and praise on the attention that we do. And I think that's a really tricky thing. But Ron, you're bringing up great points, my friend. And, when it comes to safety, I think mentally we need to keep ourselves protected, because we've heard these things. Shar has been through many, many rooms where we've heard things where like, man, where did they get all this power and why are they being this way? When people become relevant and they become famous, a lot of times they don't have a coach to tell them, hey, when you make it or you become a celebrity, there are certain things that you need to do and stay away from, because that can get to your head. Any amount of power with a simple green bean can make anyone go crazy. And once you're used to it, when you get it taken away, you're wondering what you did wrong or why you haven't earned or been entitled to that. So it's really hard to go backwards. And I think that building it slowly, building it correctly, and hopefully having the same group of mind where, we don't allow people who can get away with certain things as far as what they say because they're not acceptable. Who polices that? I have no clue, but you're bringing up great points, Ron.
Yeah, Ron, I was going to say,
Yep. Go ahead,
I was
Beth.
going to say,
please.
going back onto, about the children coming onto the site. I might have to talk to Cody, but if there's any way that, say I were to open a site and I know who's going to come into my room, if we could put like an R rating, which would deny children to be in that room, because the language is something that I wouldn't want my kids hearing. You know what I mean? Sometimes everybody gets heated and into, not that they're trying to be cruel or anything, but they get heated into the conversation, just like over on the other app. I mean, the F-bombs thrown left and right.
Sure.
And if there was a way for us to have rooms rated, like, yes, this is fine for kids to come into, this one is not. I don't know how we could control that, but there has to be a way.
Yeah, Beth, that's a interesting solution that you propose, and kind of aligns with what Matt was saying. Is, you've got these different dynamics that come into play, and you've got rooms that are specifically set up for drama, right? And all of us have been there. Someone opens up a room and they're talking about this person, and someone opens up sub rooms with that person's name in the title and all that type of stuff. So I think that's one piece, but you're really drilling down into a solution, which is, I like that kind of rating rooms. And I think also, and I don't know, again, how you best police this, but a minor's, if they do go this route on BreakOut, I know that's the hypothetical, but if that is a route that is gone, then I think a minor's profile should be flagged that they're a minor. Now, again, I know that's wishful thinking, Ron, right? Because, people are set up their profiles how they, and can say what they want, but I wish there was some way that they, behind the scenes, could vet a way to do that, so that those profiles can be flagged. And like you said, kind of rating a room, which is another piece. That's asking people to kind of police themselves, which is an interesting thought is also. But yeah, Beth, I think you're opening the door at least to start thinking through some solutions on what are some things that we could do. I mean, my daughters are 12, 11, and 9. And Beth, to your point, again, some of these rooms, I just wouldn't want them in. One, hearing, and seeing people conduct themselves in that fashion, particularly adults. And then another big one, of course, is them either being attacked or feeling, just uncomfortable, or having something said to them, or, that sort of thing. And then, obviously a big piece from the criminal standpoint is, people soliciting them for whatever, right? Those are, that last point, of course, scares me greatly. I'm sure some of you as well, with children and grandchildren and nieces, nephews, that sort of thing. So, no, some good points. And Matt, you brought up some great points too. I know that are come up as we continue this discussion, but floor is open. Let's do it.
There's something sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Matt. You got it.
Well, I just wanted to say really quickly, movies are rated PG, PG-13, and R. Why couldn't we do that with a social app? That was my only comment. So sorry to butt in there. No,
I think it's a good one. But let's just say I'm someone that's maybe even known for having spicy rooms. I'll use that term, Matt, and I rate mine G just to be, I'm a funny guy, right? So I know I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be Joe Pesci in Casino, and I'm gonna be going berserk with the curse words. But but I rated G. Like who stops me from doing that? Right. That would be kind of my first thought. I don't know if you got any thoughts on that, Matt, or anybody else?
Yeah. So when we were, I came up with this system around, I think, January, February, when I was on Clubhouse and with another team. And on the cloud drive, I remember putting like a key for this, because I was motivated to do this. That way, when people come into a room, expectations can be met, just like when rating rooms in the color system. And so I actually went back even further in time, and I went back to when teaching in the classroom, because as we say, sometimes moderating a room can feel like trying to keep the kids at bay.
Sure.
And so in the classroom, there's a color system for behavior as well. It's just like when your child goes home and they've got a black or a red, it's like, oh my God, right?
Yeah.
And so I actually created a color-coded system to use, and you have it available on your phone, like a red circle, a green circle, a yellow, like the things are already here. And so I said, it's more about just kind of training the users, not necessarily trying to just, create something that's universal, because once you start training users, one thing I saw, especially in Clubhouse, is once one team started doing something, other teams would start mimicking that same behavior and same tactical approach towards sustaining and growing their rooms. And so I said, before we start every room, in the title, if it's something that's going to be really triggering per se, right? That way we can also keep people from getting their accounts clipped, because we have people in the room that already are expecting some BS to get heard. So it's like, hey, you signed up for this, like some ownership at the end of the day too, from both sides. And so that way it's like, for example, it could be like a red circle in front of the title, or a yellow or a green, something like that, where you start educating the users. And so right now, since we're all very fresh, right? Fresh fish per se, I think we could already start, because we're already educating people when they come on here, like every single time coming into a room, like I'll hear Sloan, I'll hear Jenny, and they're always so welcoming and willing to educate newbies on here. So why not start now?
Yeah, at least I love that piece, and I was going to mention that with the room that Shar does as kind of that introductory type room. I think that's so necessary, and as you mentioned, Jenny and Sloan, and I've seen some others that have really taken the onus of reaching out to people as they're coming on the app and providing that platform to be able to educate and kind of really set the tone. I think someone had mentioned just a little bit ago in terms of I think, Elisa, you mentioned this as far as like, people just kind of adapting their behaviors, what they see in other rooms. And I think that's a critical piece to this.
Yeah, and we're all basically saying the same thing. It sounds like we've all had the same thought process here, right? It's just about, again, putting it into action. And so I think at some point, if, more things can be put in the title, even like the fire or the bomb, something that really tells people like, all right, prepare for the shitstorm, like get your raincoat, shit's happening, I think it could put some accountability on both sides, people who create the rooms and also the people who make the decisions to stay in the room.
So let me ask you, and then for the room, you mentioned about the rating system, and you kind of compared that in the educational industry. If we, I'll use me as the example, right? I learned in my corporate career, if I use me as the example, I'll stay out of HR, right? So if you all were rating me and you were rating, okay, Ron has the Breakout Power Hour and Ron and Shar and Ricky, whoever is up here hosting, and you could give like a rating, right? And you rate it based on whatever the criteria was, the rating of the safety of the room, the content, whatever. And that was somewhere. And then, obviously if there were, issues in that rating piece, right? If Ron's getting your kind of consistent marks in an area, that were negative, then that's something that would reach, Cody and maybe a team of ambassadors or something like that, where there's a review and kind of a discussion with Ron that says, hey, you're opening up these Power Hour rooms, Ron, but you're getting consistent feedback that you're being a jerk and you're kicking people off of stages and you're cutting people off and doing all this type, kicking people out, all this type of stuff. Would that be something, or at least the genesis of something that would kind of keep safety and a community going? What's some thoughts there?
Yeah. So when it gets into like the group, like organizing like group expectations, room expectations, that's fine. But when we start like individualizing things, it kind of reminds me of like some of like our communist country's social credit score. When we start getting into that area, like they say, like, what is it? All roads can lead us to hell, whatever that saying is. Sorry, I haven't been in grad school for a while.
Road paved with best intentions. Yeah.
There you go. So it's like the what we have here, and all of us thinking the same things, and obviously, because we've been on here for a while, I think it's really great. But sometimes, don't take it too far. Like just you know, because next thing you know, we all got social credit scores on our accounts talking about, are you a good person or not, ultimately, which is debatable.
And I don't want that.
Right? I can see it now.
I just said it in the chat, and I hope you guys join us on Thursdays. We have content creator Zooms where we have these discussions even more in detail.
Yeah.
But this is great, Ryan. I think that I've thought about it, but I just think this can be someone else's baby. I think someone should create the breakout town hall. Like there should be a weekly room, or how many ever times a week. I don't know if that's daily or if there's just one weekly room where there's a town hall meeting, and the walkthrough of the platform can happen there, going over like the sort of rules, house rules, like there, meet a few of the founders, development team. I don't know what all that would entail, but I think that needs to happen. Like there should be a consistent general space where that information is getting handed out. But yeah, I think that's a good start, but it has to be consistent. You know?
Yeah. I'm thinking through that. So that's a public space, and I think about how the town hall was done and is being done on Clubhouse. So do you think, Shard, that would be a space where there'd be some discussion around if there were any issues that were coming up,
No,
or this would be just general for education?
Yeah, I think that would sort of be like setting the law. Like, hey, here's the legalities, and then I think the more personal things will happen on the Zoom or more personal. Because even in the content creator spaces, we're like, hey, the goal of that is to be able to be real and raw with each other.
Right.
And if people come in, they'll get it, but if they don't, then that's more of a personal reach out, and the security will handle that, whatever the case may be. But being able to say, hey, this is what your spaces are looking like right now, and it ain't cutting it. We can try to fix that as a community. Like this is step 2, and then after that, the breakout team can handle you accordingly.
Yeah.
I think the town hall is more so of a educational spiel, sort of just getting the legalities out there.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Is that?
Oh, go ahead, please.
Is that like, when Cody invites us over to Breakout Family and we talk, something similar to that, Char?
No, it's a Zoom call. So on the Zoom is for users that are hosting spaces, consistent spaces, if you're interested in being a content creator. That's you hosting rooms and you want to grow the platform. We meet on Zoom on Thursdays, consistent space holders. Okay, so if you're not interested in that, please don't come just for fun, because it's meant to grow the platform. Just being real, just being raw. But that's what that's for.
Well, and I was thinking back to what Elle was saying about rating people on here. That could be fine. But at the end of the day, if you're running a room and you're acting a fool and you're using your real name, which I know a lot of people don't use their real names, you could ruin our whole reputation by somebody that didn't like whatever you said, going onto Google and changing things up on you and ruining things. And they will go after you. And I use my real name. I'm Googleable. People can find me. But if I said something that was really inappropriate, somebody on here could go and ruin my career. I could get my broker to call me up and say, hang your license. I'm not having you no more.
That's why I tell people never put your real name and never put your real picture up, because they can identify. I mean, there's ways you can get somebody's picture off of a program if you know how to code, and you can actually steal it and put it on the internet and find out where they live. That's how crazy this thing is. So I always say take those precautions. And when I was a lead admin in Camfrog before it was sold out to Paltalk, I was one of the leads. Hold on, what is that? Okay, never mind. Sorry, I got sidetracked. What happened is we created a system called the boiling point. And what boiling point was is you trying to ask a question with somebody, you would actually go in that room and sort your issues out with another admin, who would be part of, say, the Camfrog family.
And I think, yes, we can do policing, the app itself, but grown-ups need to add in a little bit, a lot of accountability. Okay, you're an adult. You need to learn how to maneuver on social media platforms, and be responsible for your actions. Whether you're using your first name, last name or not, if you are, then it's dumb of you to act a plum fool, knowing that someone could do whatever they want with their information. But I think accountability has to be plugged in somewhere in there. Like, I feel like a lot of times, as you said in the beginning of the conversation, Ron, like everybody's blaming the creators of the app. Oh, Breakout sucks. They allowed so and so and so and so to do this, or I did that, and now everybody's coming after me. Accountability. We have to be accountable. We have to be responsible. And I'm sorry, Krishanda, I know you wanted to jump in as well. I definitely just wanted to throw that little stuff out there.
Oh, no, you're fine, Shar. I 100% agree. That was my experience on the other app, that, everybody wanted to blame everyone else, and personal accountability seemed to be a 4-letter word, which is why I opted to change platforms, because I want to be somewhere where we can have mature conversations without all of that extra stuff. Again, some people like that extra. Krishanda doesn't. So I'm happy that I found Breakout, and this is my new home. And I'm happy to help support Cody and you guys in any way that I can to prevent Breakout from becoming what Clubhouse is now. I'm done speaking.
That's my new T-shirt. People like that mess, but Krishanda doesn't.
Right, that was a good slogan.
I need that on the T-shirt. No, I love that. No, this is great. Kind of part of the dialogue, and it made me think of, anonymity, right? Like how much of that, is a part of this, right? And someone was mentioning about, kind of using your real name and your real likeness and that sort of thing, particularly on these social audio apps. And one of the things that I've seen for the most part, and this is kind of early, but a lot of people do hear on Breakout, which is, a lot different than, of course, Clubhouse. Even the early days of Clubhouse, people kind of came on the platform with kind of different, sometimes personas and names and things of that nature. And I get it. I haven't seen as much of that here on Breakout. So, that's interesting as well. A lot more people I think to Beth's point, use their real name. But yeah, it's an interesting part of the conversation and probably a totally separate room, to have that discussion around anonymity. But anyway, floor continues to be open. We've got, probably about 15 more minutes or so. So anybody that wants to jump in, this is the Breakout Power Hour. Let's do it.
I have a question about blocking. Is that a thing here? Because that's something that I've had an issue with on Clubhouse, is that when somebody blocks you and you don't even know why they blocked you, sometimes they just don't want to hear what you have to say, even if it's not vitriol. It prevents you from being able to get into other rooms just because somebody has a difference of opinion. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll open that. I've got some. Go ahead, Sean.
Oh, I was just going to say that's not the case here. If you block someone, they can still very much so come into a space. Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was actually going to make a comment around that, and then I was going to ask you that. So, because I didn't know that. So if you block someone here on Breakout, Char, just for clarity, they could still, if you open up a space, you open up a room, that person can still come in your room, and could they still come up as a speaker, or no? Would they have to remain in the audience, or?
Okay, so necessarily your room, like if you had me blocked, I probably would not be able to see your stuff because I wouldn't be able to find you. But if I like my example was, say, Sloan had a room, we have each other blocked, we can still both go into that room, be brought up as a speaker and all of that jibber jabber and participate in the conversation. Because I don't know exactly like about the scenario you just gave, I can't really speak to it, but I know that if someone has blocked me before, sorry y'all, I probably was wilding out, who knows, or maybe they was crazy, and I couldn't find their account anymore. So.
Yeah, April's that's I wasn't quite, I guess, as aware of people doing that, but I do see where they can, to April's scenario where someone blocks you, simply because they just don't like you or don't like what you had to say. my thought on that is, I mean, that's completely wrong. I think that would have to be a conversation that would be elevated to, whoever's kind of the, along with Cody, kind of that group that's kind of helping to manage, community, on the app. I'm open to some other thoughts around that, but I mean, you're getting to a very slippery slope when you start allowing that type of behavior to go on any app, much less here.
Hey, Ron and Shar, good to be here with you. My name's John.
Hey, John.
Yeah, many of you know from the other app, sometimes in this one, I'm a retired police sergeant. So I also syndicated radio host, and I use my real name in the show. And I use it in Clubhouse and here. And not everybody likes me. Not everybody has to like me. And that's quite all right. Some people like me. And I don't go into rooms that have a lot of drama, trauma, and train wrecks, all that stuff. That's not my cup of tea. However, for those who are vulnerable, and some people, especially in the social audio app space, can become quite inappropriate. And I would not want to see a feature where my wife, for example, or my daughters couldn't block someone that was totally out of line. That's something that we should all have control over our own destiny. That keeping them out of rooms, not so much. And the one thing I was going to say is, I'm very excited about this app for a lot of reasons. But one of them is that creators can create. People that want to create and add content can. If it's my room, I'm moderating the room, and I don't like the behavior of someone, they're out. It's just that simple. They got to go. If they're a repeated problem, I block them. It's not personal. And again, I said, some people don't like me. They block me for personality reasons. That's quite all right. We don't have to like each other. But it's a safety feature I think we got to have. So I'm closed. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you, John. I appreciate your perspective on that. Any other thoughts?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, this is Sloan. I'm
Sloan.
of the same opinion. I think with audio, and it's been said before, audio is a little different from reading something that may be, or typing something that may be divisive or an argument, and to hear an actual argument, it can, or hear a conversation that gets a little hostile. It can feel like verbal abuse in a sense. And I think everyone has to consider and protect their mental health and not feel so, it can really be upsetting is what I'm saying. So I do think the feature is needed just because, yeah, you can always get off of the app too, and that's definitely an option. You can decide to disengage, but I don't think it needs to be just that cut and dry. I think the block feature is helpful if there seems to be a pattern of something like verbal abuse, or or just someone just constantly, a conversation that just can never be a civil disagreement. It always gets escalated. So I appreciate the block feature. So yeah, that's where I am about it. I don't think it needs to be used though, but yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Right. No, thank you, Sloan. And I've got some thoughts, but I want to continue to have the stage open, and anyone else that has to jump in, or anyone that hasn't had an opportunity to speak yet, definitely feel free to do so.
I don't know if it became, I guess all this started with Clubhouse, the whole blocking thing since we're on this conversation. And I get what you guys saying, social audio is different than regular audio, but the whole don't block someone because they can't participate in the conversation, it's weird to me, because if you're a complete jerk or moron, you're disrespectful, you call me on my name, whatever the case may be, you're getting blocked. And if I beat you to the conversation, then so be it. You better move quicker than that. Like, who came up with that whole rule? It's weird. That's my personal opinion, guys. Please take it with a grain of salt.
No doubt, Shar. I think, one of the pieces that's interesting with what April presented is, she presented the scenario of someone blocking her just because they disagree. And should there be levels to blocking? I guess.
Oh, yeah, that's wrong. I think when you go to block someone, you should have to put why you're blocking them. And I think that needs to be decided a lot higher in the chain of command.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it should be disciplined. Like, for example, you can't be sensitive to words. Words don't hurt. It's the action that hurts behind it. So we cannot be, sensitive to just opinions. Like on club crap, I call it club crap. One person blocks you, you can't enter the room. So I spoke with Corey about that, and he said, John, what we're going to do is basically the admins are going to be the ones that are blocking. And if they block you out of the room, you won't be able to enter the room. And I said, well, that's good. That's refresher, because you can't have a bunch of emotionalism and on a social program. I mean, I like the idea of people saying rated R, rated G, rated PG, and all that. Unfortunately, as adults, many adults today, because of trauma, and we deal with trauma in the ministry. A lot of traumatized people, when they deal with trauma, even today, police officers and people who are supposed to protect the law are dealing with trauma. So trauma is only announced when something is triggered. So when you trigger somebody in a certain way, they're going to act on their trauma. They're not going to act in civility. So if we think that we live on cloud nine and everybody's going to act like adults, you're sadly mistaken, because this world would not be in a position it is if we were responsible and accountable to the things that we do and say.
Yeah, Ron, I'll respond to that.
Please.
Yeah, no. And I know Char's seen me in rooms, and Sloan, L, they've watched me. When things start getting a little out of control, I basically act like an adult and I excuse myself. I'm like, I'm not in for this game, and I'm going to walk away. And I think that's where people get confused with, you can block people all day long, but you as your own person, you can internalize, like, this is not where I want to go with this. I'm not going to waste my time listening to this nonsense. I'm going to excuse myself. And that's what I hope people, maybe we need to make like a page where people have a mission statement of, if you're going to come over here, this is what the mission is. If you don't like it, keep your mouth shut and walk away. I don't know.
Beth, one of the things, just real quick, and I appreciate all these different perspectives. One of the things I think that I've mentioned to people that I think it's just something that we know is there, but we just don't look to leverage for some reason. I think Matt might have alluded to it earlier in the conversation that, people just get attracted to drama. But whether it's on Clubhouse or this app, many of these apps all have, kind of privacy settings, right, that we can set. And there's many different avenues that we can control. Like, for example, even on Clubhouse, you can click on rooms that you want Clubhouse to show you more of, right? So part of the reason that I'll use myself. Part of the reason, if I see a bunch of rooms that are just like all toxic and they're just, going just berserk, is because I'm telling Clubhouse that I like it because I'm spending time in it, right? So if I go sit in one of those rooms, even if I just sit in the audience, right, and I'm sitting there for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, I'm telling the app that I want to see more of that. That's what I like. And so I want to see more of that. Or if I'm going into spaces like what many, pretty much all of you all host, right? The more I go into those type of spaces where there's healthy conversation, there's great folks. Yeah, it might get a little spicy when we're opinionated, but at the end of the day, Beth, to your point, we walk away and we're adults, right? And we move on, and it's not, it's not anything that lingers. I think there's some controls that we have with that. And oftentimes I see that, we may choose just as people not to engage those. And I'm always curious as to why, but Beth made some good points. I mean, yeah, obviously you can, just, choose to leave a environment that you don't really care for. It's not serving you. But I still think through, kind of April's point of, man, if someone just simply doesn't like your opinion, right, or they don't like your voice, or they don't like your profile picture or whatever, that they could just block you and keep you out of rooms that, nonetheless you'd want to be a part of. I think that's kind of an interesting piece we got to find a solution to, I guess.
I agree, because that part, like when you guys mentioned that part, it sucks. It really does. It's unfair. I think people are abusing that option there on Breakout. So I mean on Clubhouse. So I really hope that here, there comes a different method for that. But as you stated, or as you have in the description, sorry, I'm in a cough drop. How do we make it better? What do you suggest, Ron, we do as of now, as the creators of the spaces, or even a speaker, audience member in somebody else's space? Like, how do we make it a safer place?
Yeah, no, it's, and I want to open the floor up for this. For me, I think that, and we talked about this a little bit, it's really, I think catching people earlier in the vibe that people get. I'm of the belief that when the proper, like, I'll take the example of going into someone's house, right? And, I'm in real estate. For those of you in real estate, you'll probably appreciate this, or just anybody really. But, if you go to someone's house, right, and there's trash all over the floor, and, they pull something out of the refrigerator and they tear the wrapper off and they throw it on the floor, and something knocks over and spills and they just kind of leave it, and you come into their living space, right? So right off the bat, the tone that you're giving is that, to be in Ron's house is no big deal, right? So you're going to mimic, and we talked about this earlier, you're going to kind of mimic that behavior, right? You're going to mimic the behavior of the host. And so, versus if you come into someone's house and they keep it relatively, clean, and, they throw trash away in the trash can, and, if, you pull the wrapper off something, throw it on the floor, obviously that's going to stand out and that's going to be addressed. There's, like you mentioned, Char, there's an accountability to, okay, you can't just pull the wrapper off the candy bar and just throw it on my floor, man. Right? So, because one, you're not doing that and other people aren't doing that. So that's the standard that's set. So my thing, or suggestion would be is, let's continue to double down on, as people are coming into the app, I think kind of having a breakout academy or kind of platform where people can come in and they're getting introduced to the app. They're not just kind of coming in on their own kind of terms and just, starting out. Like, there needs to be maybe some time before you can even open up rooms, right? Like, you can't just come right on the platform, open up a room and, without having gone through at least some type of onboarding, right? And I know there's a lot of layers to that, but I think kind of having an onboarding, I mean, it's kind of like you get to college and you kind of have the one-on-one classes, right? I mean, there's kind of this introduction to what's going on in the campus. This is the campus culture. This is what's acceptable. This is what's not, just like anybody's house, right? If I go to any of you all's houses, you have your standards and your rules on how things operate in your house. And if I don't abide by that, or I choose not to, right, then you're going to have your choice words for me, and I'm going to have to exit your living area, or your premises, or your home, if I choose to not align with the standards that you've set and that you demonstrate and live by it yourself, right? And so that's my thought on that, Shar, would be, if we could expand that more.
That is gold.
Please.
I'm sorry, Ryan. That is freaking gold. That's the greatest idea or suggestion I've ever heard on the platform.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's my only, I mean, I don't know, Shar, I appreciate that, but I don't know any other, I mean, if there's a better way, I'm certainly open to it, but I think everything else gets into kind of what some people have suggested, and like Elisa mentioned, like, say, you don't want to get into, you become, communist, breakout, where you got Big Brother, and Cody's got people coming in your rooms, camping out to listen to what you're doing and reporting it back to him. And, he's, one of those, he becomes Stalin, right? I think that, if we can best police it by having these platforms and going to Cody and saying, hey, Cody, as people come on the platform, you open this thing up October 1st, right? Let's, have people go through, and it could be yourself, Shar, could be, and several others. I mean, there are people that can set up these spaces where you can kind of learn and start going in the rooms. And I think as people see the vibe, they're going to adapt, right? They don't see all that crap going on. They see people treating people with respect, having good, fun, insightful, sometimes spicy spaces, right? But so I think as people see that, they see that it's not acceptable. So again, it's just like coming in your house and seeing, hey, I can't just go in the shower in her husband's house and just kick my feet up on the sofa and spill beer on the floor and, do all that. You know what I mean? Like I got to conduct myself at a certain level or I'm gonna be put out. Right. And so
Not on these floors.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think Ron, you're spot on. Like in orientation, I mean, I'm not going to hire anyone, to work under me unless they get proper training.
Exactly.
To represent myself. And so, yeah, I think like an orientation period before they're allowed to have a room would be great. And we do need Cody to get a mission statement that, when you go on, say you want to go on to join a group on Facebook. Have you all had to go down through and you have to fill out why, and then the admins look down through it to see if you are capable to be on their Facebook feed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. An orientation period.
Yeah. Well, no, I appreciate that, Beth. And you mentioned, something kind of in the workforce or just, in business in general, which is that onboarding. You have it at school, you have it on job positions when you hire or, you're hired or, even if you get a new contract with a company or organization, right? There's kind of this, like you say, this onboarding type piece. You don't just, like Beth, in your sense, I mean, you don't just bring on a new licensed agent and just toss them out there and, all right, get out there and start getting some houses, right? There's a period that you have to go through. And I think having something like that where you go through it and then, like say, there's this period where you're not able to open the rooms, you're able to come in, go on stage. I don't know how long that period would need to be. Someone else smarter than me can flush that out, but the details in the weeds, but I'm just thinking, there's some time that you do that. And again, people get a chance to kind of think about, right? Like, even if I had the intention, so Ron Brooks comes on, I got the intention to be messy and be a jerk, right? As soon as I come on the platform. Well, I got to kind of think about that. If I've got to go through orientation and I've got to talk to, folks like you all here in this room and other rooms and kind of have this period before I can get started. That at least gives me some time to think about it. Now, could I still be, a jerk? Sure, I could, but hopefully that kind of minimizes that and you stand out like a sore thumb in a negative way if you choose to be that, be negative like that. So anyway, any other thoughts? How about anybody?
I love these ideas.
Sorry.
Oh, I heard a bunch of people, so go ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't mic quick enough. I'm sorry.
Please.
I recall, look, when I signed up for previous social audios, I think this is such a good topic and a good idea that you brought up. Just like you said, orientation period or a waiting period before you start rooms. I know that was certainly done on other social audio apps. And I can recall back in the day when even creating a Facebook account, which is not audio per se, but there were rules for engagement, right? And and so if someone reported you, it had a whole hierarchical, it had a tiering system of what it deemed offensive, was it deemed borderline breaking a law, and so you had these options from that. Just offensive, and I don't want to see anything from that person again. So I do like this conversation and where it's going. And I think thankfully it wouldn't have to be recreating the wheel. It would just be pulling the best practices from other social media platforms that already exist. So yeah, I like what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, and Sloan, that was something I touched on earlier that I think you added a different layer to it that's interesting is, we talk about like the privacy setting. So again, using me as the example, if you all didn't like what was going on in this breakout power hour, you could click on this and say, hey, breakout, I want to see less of Ron and I want to see less of this breakout power hour. And I would imagine if Cody and the back office team got enough of those, they're going to reach out to Ron and say, hey, Ron, dude, what's up? All right. I'm getting several kind of, flags of issues, in your room, and if this continues, you're not going to, whatever the penalty is. Right. So I just think all of this is, I agree. It's a good conversation, and we may be on the cusp of, a solution that we can present, quite frankly, to Cody, as some thoughts, that I know he's always open to. So, no, good thoughts. Anybody else? We're down to our last few minutes before we close out. But anyone else that wants to speak on anything, please go ahead.
Just want to thank you too for putting on this room. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, John. And thank you so much for coming in and participating and again, sharing your thoughts and perspective on it. I think everybody's perspective on this, can help us lead to the solution. I know that's what we all want to get to. And that's the great thing about the community that we're building here on Breakout is, we all, while we may contrast in ways to get there, we all are trying to get to that same place. And so that's really encouraging, to say the least.
I just want to say I am so excited and happy for you, Ron, your consistency, continuing to create this space. And you stuck with what you were able to do Tuesday and Friday. It doesn't have to be every day, but it's just about being consistent, and you're doing that. Here you go, honey. You're doing that, and that's how you get that notoriety. Not that that's what you're looking for, but I know Cody hosts a lot of spaces, or he'll host his spaces, and a few people come in how can I get a blue check, or how can I get put on the website or the social platform? Because there's a few things he's talked about bringing, having on the website where there's a specific landing page where certain rooms are broadcasted, or they're listed at the top for consistency and stuff. That's how you get that. By being consistent, showing them that as much as you say you believe in the platform and you care to help it grow and bring value, your actions should follow. So I appreciate your consistency and the value that you're bringing.
Yeah, Shar, listen, I appreciate that. And you were very encouraging with that getting started, as you shared that as kind of best practices. So okay. I appreciate that. And, so thank you for those kind words, and thank you for, again, you used this word earlier, the accountability around that, because, again, there's got to be an alignment between, your words and your actions, right? And yourself and that's, Sloan and, April and Roy coming from the other platform, Elisa. I mean, so many of you all have been encouraging and supportive, even of myself, between the two platforms. And so I definitely appreciate that, and want to continue to do these and encourage everyone to, get your spaces together. And like Shar mentioned, just the consistency of it. I'm putting them on the calendar, and we're going to do them. If it's me and one other person talking, or if it's a room full, doesn't really matter to me. You'd love to be able to have these conversations and have them be valuable and give us some food for thought to take. As again, we come up with solutions and we move forward. So I appreciate everyone's support here in this room, and we're getting ready to wrap up. We're going to close the room out. Again, we like to kind of stick to our hour. That's the piece of the power hour, so that we can go, and there's other rooms either going on or other things that you want to do as part of your day. So I appreciate you all rocking out with me. Anyone want to have a final word?
Go break out, people. And if you're not confident enough in it, just join us on a call, reach out, whatever, and we'll make sure we get you over that hurdle, because people are looking for spaces. There's just not enough people hosting them. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, to Shar's point, we definitely get some rooms open. So don't be shy. Open a room up, invite people, right? I want to come if I'm available. I definitely want to come, and again, I can be on stage, I can be in the audience. Doesn't matter to me. I just like to come and participate. I can participate in the chat. Either way. So definitely invite me to your spaces as you open them. But yes, we definitely need more rooms open. So definitely consider that. If you've got an idea
And you've got some folks that are great to run ideas by. I mean, I kind of ran this idea by Shar, some, and Ricky and some other folks. And it's good to kind of bounce that off. And I'll do that in the future with some of you all. I'll reach out and just bounce things off. And, none of us got here by having thin skin. So I always knew, Shar would tell me if it was the good, bad, and ugly of something in their old way. And I appreciate that, right? You got to have people like that around. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thanks to Shar. Thanks to all of you that have come today. Sloan, April, Jenny, Beth. Thank you so much. Emma, Donthea, Roy, Marisha. Yeah. Krishanda. Thank you. Elisa. Thank you. Jackie, Michael, Servant John, Miriam. Thank you so much. And Carlos, man, we got to get Carlos gets the first word in the next room. He's been very diligent. He's hung out there in the audience with us, although we've had some technical difficulties in getting him on stage, which I hate, and I know those will get corrected. But Carlos, thank you, brother, for hanging out with us there in the audience and being a part of this conversation. So we'll be back on Friday at noon Central Time for another Breakout Power Hour. And again, thank you all. See you in other rooms. Take care.
Great room, you guys. Thanks a lot for the comment.
Y'all have a good Tuesday.
Mississippi putting it down. I'm the hottest round. I told y'all mother, y'all can't stop me now. Listen to me now. I'm lasting 20 rounds. And if you want me, then come on get me now. Is you with me now? Then biggie bounce. I know you dig the way I switch my style. Holla, holla. People sing around. Now people gather around. Now people jump around.